Good evening. Happy Sunday. Ah, such a pleasure to be here with you. Welcome. If we haven't met before, my name is Kay. I'm a spiritual life coach, and I like to set aside some time every Sunday evening to create just a welcoming environment for people to gather, do some meditative work, to connect with their inner selves, relax, and go within. So thank you for taking time out of your busy life to connect and to be here this evening. Such a pleasure to share with you. So please find a comfortable way of sitting. You can sit upright on the ground like I'm doing. You can relax in a chair like my cat is doing. That's her favorite spot. You can lie down. You can stand on your head if that makes you feel good. And we're going to start by just taking some deep breaths together. So you can place your hands on your abdomen. Drop your shoulders, drop your baggage from the week. I don't think it's a coincidence that breathing in, it can be called inspiration. When we focus on the breath, it really does make our mind and thoughts a little more refined, a little clearer. And I invite you to bring a softness into your breath. Maybe even just pet yourself a little bit. Pet your chest, pet your belly. Say to yourself, soften. Soften. Om. 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 Soften. Soften my chest, soften my belly. Or as a mentor of mine once said, strong backs, soft fronts. I know the first time I really focused on deep belly breathing, I definitely had to fight a little bit of social stigma about having a big belly as I inhale, because we're trained to keep it sucked in. We leave the house, we metaphorically or literally girdle or corset ourselves. Let that go. Big belly breath. Love your soft belly. Just slow everything down. There's nowhere else to run to right now. Just chill here. You're here. And allow yourself to enter some sacred space. And I invite you to allow every breath in to feel like you're accepting life force. And allow every breath out to feel like you're releasing something you don't need. As you breathe in, you're breathing in joy, you're breathing in love, you're breathing in the vitality of life. As if you were standing on the top of a mountain and the air is crisp and clean and beautiful. Or standing on a boat on the water, watching the sea stretch horizon to horizon. And then let your breaths out. Let it be a settling in, a sense of dropping into yourself, dropping what you no longer need to carry. Just let it go. And in this way, our breath becomes like a prayer. Every breath in, we are grateful for life. La vida. Every breath out, we settle. We relax. And something I talk a lot about in the spiritual path, that we have to find both that desire to grow, to reach for more, to expand. At the same time, we have to deeply settle into what is. We have to find comfort with just being here. And the breath really symbolizes that. On the breath in, we're taking in more life, we're taking in more energy. On the breath out, we're just settling. And we're just being here, enjoying this moment. Inhale for growth, exhale for acceptance, for peace. Inhale for action, to be active. Exhale to restore, to be quiet. And when we live this way, life becomes much more dynamic. We're not just trying to be one thing. We're not just trying to be surrendered and monkish and deeply within ourselves. And we're not just being entirely extroverted and out there and having experiences. But we're always shifting between the two. It becomes dynamic. When we're just one thing, that's not living, that's just crystallizing, growing a shell and just hunkering down there. When there's polarity, there's flow. When there's two things, that's where life begins to move. It's why there's masculine and feminine, why there's day and night. Right? That polarity creates life. And we see it in the breath. I'm taking things in. I'm letting things go. I'm pulling in adventure. I'm accepting where I'm at. And I'm letting myself be enthusiastically me throughout all of it, right? I'm breathing fully. I'm letting my whole body show up. I'm not keeping this tight and just doing. I'm filling the space with my body. I'm breathing through my back, breathing through my ribs, through my belly. I'm breathing down into my pelvic basin. I'm breathing with my whole self. And what's so interesting about the act of breathing is we're not just taking in and letting go of CO2 molecules, oxygen molecules, nitrogen. It's not just a pure chemical exchange. We're also working with that ineffable life force called prana. A life force that travels in with the breath but is not the breath. So when you breathe in, you can feel that prana start to spread throughout your body. There's 5 different types of prana, 5 different actions, movements of it within the body. You don't need to worry about the specifics today. But just notice how it does fill me more than just my actual lungs. That when I breathe, I can feel it around me, through me, in me, down me, up me, inward, outward. It swirls, it expands, it moves. So start to see if you can experience your breath being so much more than just the inflation and deflation of your lungs, and instead experience breathing as something that happens with your whole body and the space around you. It starts to fill what some might call an aura, or a kosha, a sheath, prana kosha, the breath body. Notice how you occupy more space than your physical limits. I was doing this exercise with a client this week who I believe is on tonight. If you are, hey Craig, nice to see you. Where we sat in meditation and just noticed that where I experience myself as being, that sense of isness, I am, I exist, does not necessarily align with my physical form. Like, just do this with me for a moment. Notice the space where your skin becomes air. Notice where the physical limits of you exist. And then notice, does that coincide with where your self-awareness ends? Because I know for me, my sense of selfhood does not exactly parallel the physical structure of myself. My boundaries are actually a little more fluid, a little more changeable than just this rigid skin organ meat suit suggests. And when I consciously try to become aware of that separation point between me and the space outside of me where my skin ends, I realize that that does not feel like it is the bounds of my consciousness. It is not the bounds of who I think myself to be. Then the question begins to ask, then, how much space am I entitled to? Where do I exist? Do I exist where my prana flows? My life force energy flows? Does it change based on my state of being? I know we've all experienced that, where you feel sad, you feel withdrawn, right? You pull in on yourself, you take up less space, you feel physically smaller. When you are filled with radiant joy, enthusiasm, love, we feel expansive, we feel like we can fill up a room. So then it becomes interesting then to quantify, where do I exist? Where do I exist? Is it more fluid, more malleable than the physical structures of my body would make me think? And then when we take this line of thinking one step further, well, if I could exist any distance away, what are the limits? Could I actually occupy an entire room? Maybe. Could I fill up an entire block? I suppose if you're powerful enough. An entire county? Theoretically, why not? But we're not alone in these environments. I mean, I've got a cat right there. I've got some plants around here. Hello, Mr. Plant. Hello. Nice to see you. Another plant over there, over there. These are living entities in my room. And some people believe that rocks and stones have entities, have consciousness to them. So if all of these things are taking up proverbial space, and I'm taking up space, and we are not bounded by the limits of our physicality. Well, then where do I begin and where do they end? Yes, I fully recognize we are separate physical entities in this moment. That is a cat, this is a human being, most days. A human being, anyway. I don't suddenly become some weird human-cat hybrid because I energetically think of me and her as being connected. But in all reality, what is the distinction? And we take this one step further and say, well, if all sentient life forms, hence the word sentient, is made up of consciousness, and consciousness is just another word for soul stuff. I like that term, soul stuff. Little bits of cosmic energy, cosmic oneness, over soul. That have broken apart into little bits that have created physical life. Aren't we really ultimately more or less the same? Aren't I just a little bit of soul stuff that happened to incarnate as a dude? And she's a little bit of soul stuff that incarnated as a cat? And that's a little bit of soul stuff that incarnated as a plant? But we're all consciousness. I exist, therefore I am. Then what really are the boundaries between us? Are the boundaries purely then just, well, I experience things from this particular point of view because this is the vantage from which I'm sitting? But I am no more or less soul stuff, divine stuff, than you. At this moment, I'm separated from that larger cosmic mothership, oneness, unity. And so I'm looking from over here, as are you, as are this cat, as is this plant. Just looking from different vantages. And as the boundaries of me begin to dissolve and I question, where do I end and where do you begin? I start to realize that there is no difference. You, me, we are extensions of the same soul stuff that is temporarily occupying a limited vantage, that thinks it's unique, that thinks it's separate from the rest of the cosmos. But once it retethers back onto that mothership, onto that greater oneness, the mother, as it were, it realizes, I have been this all along, I just forgot. For that short period of time, I was that little blob, and now I'm part of a big blob. And we can do this when we enter the space of mindfulness and meditation, where the boundaries of who we are start to come into focus, and we start to realize that they are not nearly as concrete as we thought. And what's so heart-achingly beautiful about all of this is you quite easily begin to realize whatever I do to you, I am in fact doing to myself. You are an extension of me that I currently do not have a tactile, sensory experience of. You're not hardwired into my nervous system. You are just as much consciousness as I am consciousness. We are both little separated parts of the mothership that I've downloaded into these bodies. And so this cat, these plants, this room, these stones, my husband, this forest we live in, it's all pervasive consciousness currently experiencing a limited identity. But it is as much me as are my own fingers, which when I sit in meditation I realize do not feel as concrete as they do when I'm purely existing out here in the waking world. What you do to another sentient creature, you do to yourself. And when a person can truly experience that, and I say experience being the key word, because it doesn't do very much good as a mental exercise, but when you can actually feel that, my God, I am part of this beautiful web of life that is also me. It's a bunch of other me's that also forgot who they really were. They went and experienced their own separate journey so they could have the thrill of it. They wanted to explore what that would be like. But it's still me. Once you realize that and you experience it, it makes it a lot harder to be unkind to other people. To consciously, willfully hurt, be rude, punch, slap, shoot, cut down, mow over, plant over, destroy other sentient life because you recognize that it is yourself that you are hurting. There's a story of the great Saint Ramakrishna that he was in a deep state of meditation and started screaming, "Ow, ow, ow, someone's rolling things all over me." And apparently right outside where he was meditating, there were rolling stones down a hill, and he was feeling the pieces of grass that were being crushed by the stones. It makes the way that our modern world lives, hey brother, so atrocious. The unkindness we see, the unconsciousness we see people enact online, in schools, with their neighbors, in politics. What you do to nature, what you do to your brothers and sisters, what you do to this planet, to everything you're doing to yourself. And why it's so important, you'll start to find as we evolve spiritually that we are naturally drawn towards living gently, to living kindly, to being more connected with the natures, the rhythm of nature, the flow of seasons, the natural world. Me and my husband were having a conversation this morning as we went for a walk. We were observing that we were the only ones who didn't shovel our driveway. And it's going to be warm enough tomorrow that will melt. And I said to him, I'm like, are we just lazy? Or are we just kind of like in tune with the natures of rhythm, just being like, oh, nature did its thing. It's going to take care of it. I don't really need to get involved. You know? Why do I need to go and change the flow of nature? I'm just going to ride with it. You tend to find that as we evolve spiritually, that we become just more in tune with the workings of the natural world and wanting to be in touch with the flow of life as it's meant to be, in touch with the flow of seasons, in touch with the changings of the moon. Feel yourself breathe. Allow yourself to expand. And realize that since the boundaries of you do not exist, Can the space separating you and I right now dissolve? Can we share the same space? And realize the oneness that we all share. And a gentle reminder that this sort of work only happens through letting go. Forcing yourself into an expansive state does not generally have good results. Surrender into it. Let go into it. Release that which holds you back, rather than needing to force yourself forward. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Shisha Samsara Harine Bhakta Karika Dehaya Namaste Chitsaratane Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunatu Sahaviryam Karavavaye Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vishavaye Om Shanti 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 Sangurnath Maharaj Ki Jai. We are one. That's a phrase that's so overused. But when you really feel it, it's so profound. We are one. And just to be clear, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having these differentiated consciousnesses. Right? You exist as you, I exist as I. That's what we signed up for. It's considered one of the powers of God is to create concealment, to make us forget, so that we can go have these vantages, have these experiences. And then there reaches a point on every soul's journey where they don't want to be in a state of forgetting any longer, that they wish to return back to the oneness. And so then we invoke one of the other powers of God, which is remembrance. Help me to remember who I really am. And if you've made it this far into this meditation session, then I'm guessing that you're probably one of those soul pieces who are starting to ask, can I truly remember now who I really am? Am I ready to find out? And if the answer is no, that's perfect. Great. Continue on your adventure. If the answer is yes, great, perfect, beautiful, welcome home. If the answer is I'm not sure, super, great. There is nothing right or wrong in this universe, in this creation. And there really is no such thing as time. So take as many lifetimes as you want. Go through another million for all I care. Have fun. Because eventually you will come back home. And then you know what happens after that? You're going to start out again. You're going to again become a differentiated piece of consciousness off on their own adventure. Exploring creation. There's nothing right nor wrong, but thinking makes it so. Wherever you find yourself in your adventure, it's beautiful. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. It's a sincere pleasure to get to sit with you and share some space. I'm Kay. If you ever have any questions on the things we talk about or work on here, please feel free to reach out, shoot me an email or a DM. I try to respond to everyone. Or leave a comment. I respond there too. I hope you have a wonderful evening, day, life. I hope wherever your journeys take you, you feel well, that you celebrate ecstatically because you're on your adventure. You're exploring a life that you, as an individual piece of soul stuff, wanted to explore. And no matter what adventure that might end up taking, just stay grateful. Just stay grateful. Such a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Our time is our most valuable resource. Once it's given, it will never get it back. So the fact that you wanted to share some of your very precious time with me is a treasure, and I accept it. Have a wonderful, wonderful life. Namaste.